Hello. Hello. Look you. Hello, darling. How are you? Come on. Hello, Ramiro. How are you?
Fine. Mom, guess what?
What happened?
In the history class, we were talking about civil wars. And teacher mentioned Argentina. You know something about it?
Yeah. Wait a minute. I have to show you. And this album is photos. In this album, you have a history that marked my life and the life of more people that live in Argentina, and it's why we are here.
On March 24th of 1976, a military dictatorship assumed command of Argentina and it released a warfare campaign against the guerrilla, but also against the political and social activists. Their terror practices were even worse than those they said they were fighting for. Out of this carnage arises the term disappeared, term that refers to the people who vanished in thin air after the government took them. The military junta, under strict orders of General Rafael Videla, deposed the popular and democratic Peronist government. The Peronist ideology was a democratic political movement inspired by the deceased former President Perón. Once the government was under the control of the military, unmarked cars with soldiers in civilian clothes started to wander around the streets. Though unrecognizable by their license plates, the cars could be identified by their brand and style because they were all dark Ford Falcons. During this time, public meetings were prohibited by the military. Consequently, democratic meetings started to arise underground. Free-minded individuals who dared to question the unfair laws were seen as threats to the military. College students started to vanish into nothing. The procedure was known by everybody. The Ford Falcons enclosed streets and houses, and then the military operatives would close the streets and proceed to take people and their possessions by force. The families of the missing persons began to wander between police stations and the courts in order to get some information about their loved ones. However, the answers were useless. Since then, the word disappeared began to have an important place in Argentina's history. For us, it meant lost, taken, but overall, vanished, because it was as if the earth had swallowed up these people. At that time, I was almost your age. My other cousins, all college students and Peronist youth activists, had gone underground. In the universities, the military investigated each of the students, and if someone was considered a suspect of something illegal, the person was immediately arrested. Young people began to gather in the basements of houses. The university started to become a good place for the military to find the people who had different opinions. Free thought was a risk for abduction. Families began to fear for the future of their children. Serious discussions between parents and their children in college who did not want to stop their activities increased in every family. My family was not immune to this. At each meeting, as soon as the topic of the political issues came about, we feared being arrested. I used to go to camp during the summer. Those were one of my happiest memories until that day, when your grandpa went to pick me up from the train station, and I saw in his face that something terrible had happened. I remember it like it was yesterday. As soon as I left the train, Dad took me in his arms and began to cry like a little baby. Selfish I, like most teenagers, I thought it was the thrill of seeing me. Already accommodated in the car, and on the way back home, I tried to tell him about my 20 days in an instant. However, my dad was trying to stop my chattering. He parked the car and looked at me straight in the eyes. I tried to start talking again, but he grabbed my hands tightly. And with tears in his eyes and his voice low and painful, he took a breath and said, "They have taken your cousins." Those 5 words were like 5 shots at close range, or like 5 blows given by the hammer of a court judge giving the final judgment. My 6 cousins, along with other companions, had been captured by the military. I thought especially of my beloved Manelli, my favorite cousin. A chill ran over me, a feeling of deep emptiness. I could not find a place to walk or who to hold me. A hurricane of memories, sights, and smells came to my mind. Nights of talks, Christmases, birthdays, and weddings, where moments echoed in my memory. Smells of childhood, evening breezes of the sea blended with family gatherings, the laughter of my cousins after family dinners, all remained in my memory. A person needs to bury their death in order to close the cycle of life, but we spend days, months, and years without being able to mourn over the bodies of our loved ones. They had disappeared from the face of the earth. The mothers of the disappeared began to haunt the police offices, prisons, and courts. There was never an answer for them. They had as meeting point the square in front of the Casa Rosada, which is the presidential home. They created a way to identify each other since it was prohibited to make public meetings. They used to wear a white scarf in their hats. Every Thursday, they marched in silence, a silence that screamed loudly, "Justice." They received the name of Madres de la Plaza de Mayo. They were recognized in the whole world, though for the militaries they were only the crazy ladies of the square. Our family was an active part of this organization. They changed their routines in order to prioritize their main goal, that was to find our loved ones. After many years of terror, Argentina began to recuperate its democracy when in 1982, the military junta was discredited by its defeat in the Falkland Islands War and a transition to a re-establishment of a democratic civilian rule. Life goes on, but inside me, I would never forget the agony of not seeing them again. The wounds do not close, but you learn to live with them although life is not the same. You live with a bitter taste in your mouth, and even though peace came back to our country, you never felt safe again. There are too many wounds and too much suffering, which it's almost impossible to live with. The years passed, and life gave me great satisfactions. I fell in love, and that love gave me you. And that is one of the few things that can make me smile, even when I'm sad. We moved here, and now we have a wonderful life.
Cry, Ramiro. It's a lie that the men don't cry. Cry, but don't forget, never forget why we are here. I love you.